Hey, this is Sky with Dead Eye Delight. I'm here with the one and only fucking death metal legend, Kelly from Atheist,
Are
which
you?
we all fucking know who those guys are. But most importantly, he is also the main vocalist in Till the Dirt. Correct?
Correct. Yeah. Actually, yeah, I pretty much wrote that whole record on my own. That's my pet project. I've brought in a bunch of friends and yeah, made a cool record. So yeah, I played guitar on that record as well for the first time, and the first time I played on a record since Elements in '93. So
Yeah, because you
yeah,
had a tendonitis, didn't you, in your
I
wrist?
still do. Yeah. So
Oh, you
if I
still do?
stand, yeah, if I stand up and play, it's really difficult. But as long as I'm sitting down, then I'm good. So yeah, I during COVID I was very super productive and wrote a bunch of songs and ended up being Till the Dirt.
Well, if anybody out there doesn't know who that band is, I really want you to take a claw hammer and just go ahead and club yourself in the fucking head because you're missing out on some fucking great music.
Thank
Um,
you.
and do
It's
me
a weird
another
record,
huge,
it's taking people a minute to kind of get used to. Anytime you hybrid styles, people get a little uncomfortable, when they listen, and so it doesn't always catch on right away. But I liken it to, I think it'll age well. It's just the record. It's chaotic and fast, and then it's groovy and there's a lot of influences in it, and it was just a natural thing. I wasn't definitely trying to put together a new band or anything like that, but COVID created a lot of weird um, sort of micro isms in everybody's life, where you just kind of either retreated to maybe reading or doing whatever it's. But for me, I was just like addicted to recording every night. I had a laptop with a studio all set up in my house, and I would just sit for hours and I'll be able to play guitar through these modeling amps that are incredible these days. The technology is just, without technology, I wouldn't have been able to do it because all the guests on the album, nobody that played on the album, none of us laid eyes on each other for the
oh,
whole recording of the record. So that's kind of a first for me. I've never made a record with people I never actually was in the same room with.
that is
So
interesting. Yeah.
yeah, really, really cool, man. I think that's a kind of a 21st century difference between the way things used to be and the way they are now, or the possibilities of what they can be. I'm not saying that I still enjoy the experience of all being in the studio together, but for this is like I said, it was nice because I didn't really have to consult with four other band members about the songs or anything like that. I could just pretty much make the decisions myself, which was kind of refreshing for a minute after being in bands for 30 years where you write things and you try to, you may get three out of the four guys that like it, but the fourth guy doesn't like it. And so out it goes, and so you kind of make a lot of concessions artistically by doing that. And so this was an honest sort of pure experiment of where I'm at personally, musically, and came out cool, man. Came out
Yeah,
cool.
it definitely is one of my favorite albums from last year, I will say.
Thank you
So
so much.
it's no
Well, I hope
problem,
people will
man.
check it out. It's they came out on Nuclear Blast in August 2023. So still a new release. So check it out on Spotify or whatever, and give it a shot. It's violent, it's nasty, and it's also got a lot of beautiful moments. So it's got a lot of emotion.
And that's the
And
thing that
and listen, for the people waiting for a new Atheist record, it's there are moments of Atheist in there. I wrote a lot of guitar stuff in the catalog of Atheists, so you're gonna hear that style and that you're gonna hear that on the Till the Dirt record. So little, if it's any concession, to hold people over until the new Atheist record is ready to roll. But people just really, it seems, have a difficult time letting you go away from what they're accustomed to you being to them. You know what I mean?
right.
And so you've been in a band for 30 years. People want you to be in that band forever. Like they don't want to hear your new band. They want to hear
Yeah.
your whole other band. And it's like, so it's frustrating sometimes, man.
Uh,
We'll see. And nonetheless, I just like creating music and songs. I just the magic power that I enjoy. I love it.
yeah. Do you ever get tired of people pressuring you to do a new Atheist album? I mean, do you ever get tired of that?
No, I just wish that I could sit each one of them down and explain that we should have done 3 records by now, but the record business itself is so fucking nasty that we've been tied up in a contractual dispute for over 5 years. And that's the reason why there isn't a new Atheist record. There's a label sort of holding us in ransom. I can't name them right now because of legalities, but it's just disgusting what they're doing, and they're holding us up. They breached contract. It's in another country, so it's a difficult scenario for us. So I wish that I could explain to everyone that we would love to make a new record, but we are writing. So we're 4 songs into writing, so we'll be ready to go when we sort out the contractual side of our issue, and we'll have a whole bunch of material written by then, and just be able to jump in the studio and get it done. But believe me when I tell you, like, nobody wants a new record more than us. So working on it.
Hey man, it'll be well worth the wait, to be honest with you. I remember a buddy of mine introducing me to Atheist, and he was like, "Well, you like kind of techie stuff," and I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "And you have a background in jazz music?" I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Check Atheist out," and I listened to it, and I was like, "You guys are fucking playing jazz scales and fucking thrash and death metal." I was like, "Motherfuckers!"
How old
I
are
was
you?
in. I will be 42 this year.
Okay, so you're in that sort of middle generation of where you were like 7 when we finished, when we were done in
Yeah,
'93, right? Something like that.
yeah.
So that the reason I say that is because you, as a younger sort of fan of progression and progressive metal, uh maybe you can, it's like, so what we're doing now pales in comparison to the chaos of today. Like, the musician level of today is so fucking insane, and these kids are just incredible guitar players and amazing drummers. And so but a band like Atheist, I mean, we sort of paved the way for that possibility of that inclusion of progressiveness and extreme metal. And so it was more impressive then than it probably is to your ears now if you're just discovering Atheist. You know what I mean? It's like so back then, the super tech and the jazz weird shit that we were doing was way outside the bounds of normal shit. So if somebody's 17 years old and they're watching this podcast, they may be like, they may listen and go, "Oh, but it's always about where things came from." I mean, all of this comes from Black Sabbath and Deep Purple. You know
Oh
what I mean?
yeah,
Like, everything that
good
we know
shit.
and love about all metal comes from that. And so it's important to sort of tip your hat to that part of the process that led us all to the 21st century to listen and enjoy crazy fucking metal that we listen to today.
Oh
So
yeah.
but yeah, so it's a weird place to be as an artist, because it's you're being judged on what you did 30 plus years ago. And we were 16, 17 years old, writing the first album, Piece of Time. And so we're pretty young, and so it's almost like somebody celebrating your yearbook photo, like, check it out, look at this, 1989, but I'm still proud of most of all that. The first record has a couple of songs on it that and that haven't aged to my liking, but the whole second record, Unquestionable Presence, I love top to bottom, and almost all of Elements. There's a couple of moments that I'm not super happy with at the end, but I mean, that record was put together very fast. And so anyway, there's always something about a record that you make that you want to change. But it is very interesting to be out playing with young guys in the band, and playing music that's 3.5 decades old, and having it matter and having it still hit the room correctly. It's kind of
Yeah.
cool.
I think it was high school. I was 15 years old in biology lab is when my friend Nick handed it to me.
Nice.
Because back then I was listening to, like, he gave me Cannibal Corpse and I was like, okay, Cannibal Corpse, I get it. He gave me Motorhead, one of their albums. Never heard of Motorhead till then. Um, Basically, and then fucking Cradle of Filth.
What were you listening to before that?
Uh in my household, most of the time we were listening to like 80s rock, or
So
hard rock, Black Sabbath.
your first venture into extreme metal was among those records, Motorhead, Atheist, and holy shit, you must have been like, what in the world? You must have really been confused by what we were trying to do. You know what I mean? Like, what the hell is that? You know, I mean, because it's raw, you know, I mean, it's just so much more raw than your typical power metal or anything like that. You know, I mean, it's just rough around the edges. So, I mean, if that's your first introductory band, it's usually Metallica, you know, stuff like that. I
Yep.
mean, you had no knowledge of Metallica, really?
I heard of them, but
What?
d- didn't
So
really listen
did
to
you
them.
now have you gone back since?
Oh shit, yeah. Oh
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
okay,
Oh
yeah.
yeah. I'm very
Yeah,
very well
you have to get
educated.
those Show No Mercy, Slayer, Hunt in the
Yeah.
Chapel. Oh yeah, all those things are just essential vitamins to your metal brain.
Oh yeah, I was about to say, dude. I know. Like I started after I got into you guys, I went to more thrash,
Cool.
Death Angel, Dark Angel. Got into them. Then of
Nice.
course, Florida has, in my opinion, one of the best death metal scenes. All you know, there's a lot of great bands from there too. And then I got into like fucking black metal, the Norwegian stuff. I got
Yeah.
into some grindcore and punk, hardcore, like everything that year of my life, everything fucking shattered and changed. And it was amazing for me because I got to listen to all these bands and just, it inspired me as an artist too. Especially your vocal style, I incorporated into the way I did my vocals for a black metal project I did
That's
when we
funny that you
tried.
mentioned it because black metal has that very high witchy sort of vibe that it's because we went away for so long, that style of vocal after we broke up in 93 kind of emerged significantly in black metal. And then coming back, I found a lot of times, like when we were doing reviews or interviews, people would be like, "Are you inspired by black metal?" And I was like, "No, no, no, no. I'm older than that, actually." So, I was screaming in 1987, like a witch. But I could never claim that. But I took that from Schmier from Destruction and Millet from Creator. Like, so that's where I came from. So it's interesting to see that somebody else takes. Typically, people aren't inspired by my vocals style because I don't have that deep, burly, thing that everybody loves.
I
So it's
really,
nice to hear that somebody,
I
appreciated
appreciate it.
vocal.
Yeah, I mean, I used to do the deep, lower guttural stuff, but I was like, it just didn't. I don't have that deep of a voice.
I don't either, man. I don't either.
I was like, so I was talking, and I was like, telling a buddy of mine, and that's what he's like, dude. He's like, fucking go ahead and try the high pitch shit, mid to highs. And I fucking started doing it, and I was like, oh fuck, my throat feels so much better. I can do that
Nice.
shit while smoking a cigarette on stage.
Hell yes.
See,
Let's start.
well, well, fucking this day and age, a lot of us are having to switch to these now, unfortunately. But
Vaping out, yeah. I have my weed vape,
oh, see,
but
there you go.
I'm still smoking regular cigarettes though.
Hey, man, hey, you're in one of the best places. I'm in Alabama, and you can't even touch the shit without going to jail.
Oh
So
man.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
they
a
gotta fix
five.
that.
Yeah, it's a five
And they're
year
trying to,
minimum.
Florida's just it's not recreational in Florida, but it's medicinal. So I have a friend with a license. I just go with him to the clinic and get a pen. It works out great. Shout out to Beazle, my friend Beazle.
Nice, nice. So tell me how you got into making extreme music with Atheist. What was the journey that led you to do that?
To making the music of Atheist.
Yeah, they got you inspired to actually, want to go out and do something extreme.
I mean, I was just all part of this current that was happening in the mid 80s, like 1985, 86. We were like really into Maiden and Judas Priest and early Metallica. I remember we were kind of into tape trading, and so we had the demos, the No Life to Leather demo, and so we were kind of just watching the water boil, so to speak, and we just kind of jumped on to the whole train of that musically. It took us a minute because we had to learn to play our instruments better. And if you listen to the very early Ravage demos, that's what we were called before Atheist. We were called Ravage, and it's really, really, really rough and shitty. And but we were listening to the right shit. So we had the right ingredients. We just weren't putting the right amount of in our stew, so to speak. And so, we were all close friends in a beach town called Sarasota. And, and we just, literally would spend 6 days a week. We had a warehouse, like a garage, and we had it
Mhm.
all with a stage built, and we had a PA, and we just like banged it out there like 6 nights a week, and we hated the seventh night that we didn't get to play. So I mean, we would play for 4, 5, 6 hours at a time each night, over and over and over and over, and just always trying to emulate our favorite, Maiden, Rush. We wanted to be able to play well, but it was when our drummer Steve Flynn, he started kind of taking jazz lessons. Like, he was always a good drummer. He could play fast when other guys couldn't. Like in the early days of fast drumming,
Yeah.
and so that was a perk in the beginning of playing with him. Me and him went to junior high together, and we didn't see each other until we kind of got to be 16, 17. And then we found that we were into the same kind of music. So that's me and Steve Flynn put the band together in the early days, and just by a kindred spirit of enjoying this underground metal thing that was happening. And yeah, so we just quickly got better at our instruments. And then Steve really sort of started, and Roger really started excelling on a level that was like creating this template that ended up being the thing that sort of we're known for these days. Like that they played so complicated that we had to write guitar parts that were simpler around it to
Right.
make it all sort of cohesive and listenable. And we didn't realize that's what we were doing. We were just trying to make shit that we thought was cool. But looking back on it as an adult and an experienced brain, I could see, I can listen and I can feel and remember what it was like to put those things together. And that was always the goal, to make it interesting and not boring. I know that we despised basic 4/4 pop music. It came out of, that's where extreme metal comes from, out of disdain for normal, boring bullshit. And then, if you think about the mid 80s, you're talking about Tears for Fears and fucking Depeche Mode. And I'm sorry, I've just never got that whole trip, and just all those kinds of, very synth poppy kind of stuff. We were just like, ah. So it made, I think, and that combined with practicing in, 100-degree weather, sweating your balls off, just, bashing out these riffs and playing. So it was a labor of love, I guess.
I would definitely, yeah, I would definitely say so, especially at a time period like that. And it's weird, like you said, I'm in that like weird middle gap, I guess you call it. Like, I was too young for the 80s, and yeah, it was just fucking weird. But it's like growing up is like being stuck in a time capsule, because it was fucking weird. I guess it's because I'm from a small town and not a lot of shit would come in. We never saw
Yeah.
any bands or anything like that.
Alabama's not a place that a lot of people get to for some reason. That needs to change.
It ain't
That's
gonna
where you're at,
happen.
right? Alabama?
Yeah, yeah, it's not gonna happen,
Yeah.
man.
That's interesting, because when we book tours, our agent books the tour and we just get the dates, and it's not very often now. Years ago, I had a band called Neurotica, and we signed with the WWE. They started a record label back in the early 2000s, and we played on Ozfest, and one of the off shows that we did was in Dothan, Alabama.
Okay, yeah.
And there was, are you anywhere near Dothan?
Oh no, that's like 4 hours away from me.
Oh wow, so you're northern Alabama.
Yep,
Uh,
I'm in North.
so when you go to shows, where do you go?
I don't. That's the sad part. I don't
Oh,
anymore. It sucks,
well,
but
yeah. Well, we got to fix that shit, man. We got to start getting to Alabama. Is
I
there anybody
fucking
there in the metal?
the metal scene around here died off. See, I'm 42. I was into it. It died off probably when I hit 30. A lot of the
Uh,
guys that we played with, either they found Jesus and wanted to go do Christian stuff, or they were burnt out and they went to go move to Atlanta or Tennessee or Nashville and stuff like that, where the scenes are bigger, or even Florida, where they could actually do more. Um, and since I'm a family guy, of course I want to stay here, you know, doing family. I did the touring thing shortly. I fucking hated every moment of it. Nothing
you
like
hate it,
being enough.
touring?
It's,
It's
you
not for
know what?
everybody. It's
It,
it is definitely, you got to be built for it, man. I mean, I picking band members was like one of the toughest things that like when I put this new band together. people are like, so you had to find really good musicians. It's like, yeah, but I had to find really good musicians and guys that are built for touring, guys that are able to leave for a month and come home and not fall apart. Guys that aren't chained to a relationship that doesn't allow them to focus on the on the tour and what's going on. It's a tall order, man, to find 5 people that are all on the same page and all want to do the same thing. So yeah, I get it. I mean, it's and I can see certain personality types. Why would it the touring not know, because I mean, people, it's funny if people knew what touring was actually like. I mean, it seems glamorous, but it is not glamorous in any way.
No.
It's really like, there's 1 hour a day that's glamorous, and it's while you're on stage, and the rest of it is searching for a fucking clean toilet, hoping to get something to eat, finding a quiet place to sleep, uh, finding a way to deal with the odors of 12 other men, just all these things that are just that are invariable sort of factors that you don't think about when you think about touring.
Yeah, yeah, and
But I
fighting
love it
over
though.
food, fighting over food.
And and there's different levels of touring. So I mean, I would say in the early days of Atheist, it was really, really tough. And these days it's a little more comfortable. So it's nice. I mean, and if everything is done right and everybody does their business correctly, then touring can be touring on a bus is where it's at. Because then you can, if you need to get away, you can just go climb in your bunk and pull your curtain and flip on a movie, and you get a little air conditioning vent and peace and quiet. And I sleep really well on a bus. Like I have as long as that generator's going, as long as the bus is running, I'm fucking sleeping like a baby. So yeah, but sleeping in a van did you do a van tour?
We had a U-Haul, a van, and a mattress in the back of the van.
That'll break a band up.
And it was
Yeah.
the personality clashes a lot because I'm not really an introvert necessarily, but I'm not outrovert either. I'm kind of like in between. But the thing is, once I play a show, I don't mind hanging out and talking to people. But after that, if I'm in the van, I just kind of want to read a book and chill out. Don't really talk too much. And some of the other guys were really huge partiers. I'm not a huge partier. I really wasn't ever a huge partier. And I kind of had like my biggest pet peeve was, watching them get fucked up before we played. And that would piss me off because that means you're not giving 100% what people want to see. Even if we're not, I mean, we were never a main headlining band at all, never. And I was fine with that. I just wanted to honestly play shows, hopefully play with some of my heroes, get to hang out with them, talk, and that was it. I mean, I didn't mind being on the road per se, but if it wasn't for such the horrible personality clashes, you got one guy that's like a super narcissist and wants to do it to get chicks, which PSA announcement out there, guys. If you're in a band, you're not getting chicks, okay? And if you are, it's
Not
not the ones you
no,
want.
no, Meadow is a sausage party for sure. Always, I mean, but thank you to all the lovely ladies that do come. Thank you for support. It's different in different countries, but in Mexico, man, there's a lot of women into metal. It's really nice. I mean,
See,
just have a mix of guys and girls. I mean, and Greece is the same way. A lot of Greek fans are women, and so it's nice. And I get it. It's kind of knuckle dragging a lot of times. I mean, and
oh yeah.
so it's not where they go to search for a husband to a metal show.
No, so some of the stuff I do now is kind of like you did with Till Dirt is I do it at home or I'll send stuff to my buddies and then we'll do things that way because I know you're a family man too.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
so I know it can be, with you it could be hard, leaving your family behind and whatnot. So I mean, does
It's
that
my life.
ever?
My wife. I got so I have an 18-year-old daughter, and then I got married, and then I had a new little boy. He's 7, and so I have like chapters of fatherhood, and I have an older son who is 32. So I have grandkids even. I have 2
Oh,
grandkids. And so yeah, but I've always been this guy. This is all I've ever been since I'm 16 years old. So anybody that's ever come into my life knows what they're getting with me. I mean, this is it's not what I do. It's sort of who I am. I have to make music. I have to create. I'm either painting or I'm writing songs, or I mean, it's just I have to. It's an exhaust pipe, or I will explode. So yeah, fortunately, my wife and my friends and everybody really have been super helpful in helping me pursue all the things that I put my heart and soul into for 3 decades. And so it can be tough though. You really do have to have that family support. And I miss the shit out of the kids. I wish that I was on a Metallica level where I could just bring everybody with me. I would bring my family and I would never come home. I would just live on a bus and travel all around and play every night, travel around during the day and go shopping and have fun. And with my kids and my wife, that would be the ideal scenario. And it's not an unreachable goal.
No.
You just gotta get to a certain level. And there were a lot of years where Atheist wasn't very active. Steve Flynn had a very corporate job and he's got 4 daughters, and it was difficult for him to tour longer than a week. So for probably, 15, 20 years, I pretty much adhered to that schedule. And it wasn't until in the last, sort of 8 to 10 years where I put a new band together, new lineup, and want to really go out and, travel, see the world, play for people. And it's just been incredible. I mean, we were just in Europe with Cryptopsy a few months ago, and I'm seeing people that have been listening to the band for 35 years, and it's the first time we're playing for them. And it's a really incredible relationship with people I've never met. I mean,
That's
that's the cool
awesome.
thing about music is you don't know what people have gone through while you're the soundtrack for what they're going through. And so
Exactly.
it means so many different things to every single person. And that's why I'm kind of a people person. I really like to go and shake hands and meet people and hear stories and everything, because it's kind of the currency. It's the only way we get paid. I mean, nobody's making millions of dollars, but I put each of those stories in my bank of things that I'll think about when I'm like in my last few days of life. Nobody really looks in their wallet when they're terminally ill. They
No.
look back on their life and they look back on the things that made their life amazing. And so each story that somebody tells me about how they were 14 years old and some kid gave them a cassette and they were riding around in their Volkswagen fucking stoned out and they heard Unquestionable Presence and it blew their fucking mind, and now they play bass and they're in this band, and I'm like, wow, fuck, that's amazing. And then you go to Finland and you meet somebody from Finland who had a similar experience except in fucking Finland, where it's a
Yeah.
completely different environment. And I can remember hearing, I was in Norway, and do you remember the band Turbo Negro?
Yep. Oh
So the
yeah.
singer, so we were playing in Norway at this festival, and I'm talking with this guy for a long time, and he's drinking red wine, and he has a suit on, and he just kind of looks like a hipster, like a little bit, but just, I don't mean that in a bad way. He just kind of looks important to like a business guy or something, and we're talking and talking, and he's telling me, he's like, I was on heroin and I only had 2 cassettes and a box recorder to listen to, and I had to go out into the snow and detox, and all I listened to was Cause of Death and Atheist, Unquestionable Presence. And he's like, those 2 cassettes were all I had, and that's all I listened to while I escaped heroin. And so, it was just a cool conversation I was having with a guy. And then one thing led to another, and he was like, he mentioned he was in a band. I was like, oh, what's the name of your band? He's like, Turbo Negro. I was like, holy fuck, I just saw you. I just saw them open for Queens of the Stone Age. And, they had a lot of songs that were sort of on Viva La Bam. I don't even remember that show. Bam from
I've,
Jackass. All my friends are dead. That was a
yeah.
Turbo Negro song. So anyway, I was just, again, so my point is just, you never know who's listening to your music and what it's doing for them or where it sits in their life. To me, that's so valuable. And I treasure that shit because again, there's just not millions of dollars to be made, but there's hundreds of thousands of really great stories, and having an impact on somebody else's environment, somebody else's soundtrack, is it's a cool thing to do as an artist, to
Yeah.
be able to
I
do.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. Have you ever thought about writing a book about all the experiences you've had?
Yeah. I mean, I don't. I would have somebody write it for me because I'm more of a storyteller than a. I don't have the attention span to sit down and write. I wish I did. I wish I was a writer like that. But I'm a spontaneous writer. So like if I write songs, it happens in like an hour, and then it's over. And So I don't go back to it. It's like once it happens. It's the same with music. It's like I'll typically, all those Till the Dirt songs were written in one night. And then I just kind of wake up the next day
Oh,
and feel different. So each night I wrote like 25 songs for that album, for the Till the Dirt album. So I have a bunch of other songs that, ready to go for another album that are in that same vibe. But I don't know. I don't know why I'm that way. I don't know. I might go back the second day and kind of touch up audio things the way I recorded it. But all those vocals are first night, sometimes 2 a.m. with my little boy sitting on the couch watching Paw Patrol. Like I didn't have a fancy studio. I did all those
yeah.
vocals with a 58 handheld mic sitting in my living room during COVID while my wife was a frontline worker for COVID back then. She was working on the front lines in the grocery stores and so yeah, so the way that came together, those vocals are like 2 a.m. after 3 shots of Jaeger and get really high
Oh,
and so it made me sing in a different way. It made me try things that I normally wouldn't try. And so when I would wake up the next morning, I don't feel that way anymore. I'm not in that headspace anymore, so I can't get back to that groove. So I would try to get everything. I would start at like 6:30 at night, and then I would go until like 3 in the morning. And so you know, it's great not to polish turds. You know what I mean? Like either the song works or it doesn't. I mean,
yeah.
but sit and spend 4 or 5 weeks like on a song is like that's like trying to say something to somebody and just not being able to say it for 4 weeks. It's like I don't know. I'm just different. I know it works differently for other people, and maybe they get greater results. But for me, it's all about a spontaneous combustion.
When you talking about microphones, I'm like, yeah, this is the one I used to record vocals, and it's like, wow. But it does the job though, and that's all I care about. But then,
Yeah, I didn't have the fancy little screen or the airtight room or any of that shit. But so I
and
liked it.
I
I love the rawness of it, and that's one of the things that I love about that record is it's super fucking raw and nasty, and it's not the production sounds different than all this super clean, pristine things that are just so like there's so many of the same sounds. Like it's almost as if I don't know, man. Everybody's using a lot of the same sounds, and right, or just there's so much perfection. It's just so perfect. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like I want to hear imperfections. I want to hear the guitar slightly out of tune that one time you hit the string. Maybe you play a part 4 times, but maybe the fourth time you hit it extra hard and made that string just go slightly out of tune, just a little bit. Especially down tune shit, where it sounds just really heavy. I like to leave that shit in. I like to leave in the flaws. I think it makes it more interesting and more unique.
Yeah, no, I agree because it's the flaws that actually, like you said, it does make it more unique. It's kind of like a painting and you accidentally, bump or something, you just mess up a line. You're like, huh, that actually fucking looks better now. Awesome, we'll go with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that that's kind of the charm of really good art. I mean, the happy accidents. The things you didn't plan on. And then that happen. That's why it's good to get in a room and kind of hash things out. But this process of doing this was completely different than anything I've ever done. So it automatically created a different feel, and I'm not able to sing the way I do on Till the Dirt and Atheist. I mean, I would never do that. I would never try to put that vocal style into Atheist. I have too much respect for the people that have invested their time and love into the band for being that band. And I'm not going to be that guy that's going to try to mix my new shit into, you know what I mean? So people out
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
I think some people get that impression like, oh no, Kelly's going to come back and now fucking try to sing on an Atheist record. No, I'm not. I mean, I know the difference between the two bands. They're definitely
Yeah.
different. So
Well, the thing I hate the most is artists like yourself and others, when you're known for one band and then you do something that's your passion project, they're all like, oh, it's going to be Atheist 2.0 or kind of like the Kerry King album. Everyone's like, oh, it's Slayer 2.0. I'm like, give it a fucking listen and a chance and go into it with a clean slate. Don't think about the past, what they've done. Think about what they're doing now and focus on
people
that.
spend
And
a lot of time on social media looking in comment sections, deciding which way they're going to lean. You know what I mean? Somebody may watch a video, especially like the new Kerry King is a great example. Here's a guy who's laid a concrete slab of a foundation in metal. He deserves all the respect in the world. He's one of one of the kings of what we all love and treasure about metal. And he's also a prime songwriter, one of the main songwriters of Slayer. And Slayer doesn't want to play anymore. So he writes songs and he gets a fucking amazing vocalist in Mark. And I mean, I think Mark sounds like, he's clearly better than Tom Araya. I mean, as a vocalist, I mean, he's just, pound for pound as a vocalist, he's a more talented vocalist. But he has a very similar yell as Tom. So when they do those Slayer covers, it sounds really great. So I'm so happy for the guy. I mean, I don't know him, and I don't know what kind of person he is. But I know how hard it is to be known for something for fucking 30 plus years and try to do something different and have people just go, man, because everybody has an opinion. You know what I mean? Because in the late 80s and early 90s, nobody had a platform to say, well, here's what I think. Here's what I think. Now everybody is like, well, here's what I think. And it's fucking annoying, man, as an artist, because it's, and you can't get caught up in that as an artist either. You got to just make your music and you got to take the hate and just keep fighting through it. And then eventually that shit goes away and people kind of come back to what you've done. And, but yeah, he's having a hard time. He didn't want to call his band Kerry King, he wanted to give it a name. And I can understand that too. I didn't want to call Till the Dirt Kelly Schaefer, solo record, but I didn't want it to be that, wanted it to be its own thing, so it's a tough world, man, where everybody has a platform for an opinion. It can be hard to navigate.
I call them keyboard warriors. That's what I call them, keyboard warriors or keyboard terrorists. So when I go out to listen to an album, or if I'm going to review an album, I refuse to watch anybody's review on it. I refuse to read anybody's comments, because on my channel, if I review an album, I want to be non-biased as possible. And mostly, honestly, I'm not going to talk about an album if I think it fucking sucks. It doesn't benefit me, and it's not going to benefit anybody else.
I think it's something that's really odd about this business right now, and you're on the other side of it. I mean, you're reviewing records and doing a podcast. It's understand that from my point of view, like when we put a record out, for the first 2 weeks, it's out, it's available to you, it's available to anybody in the press to listen to before anybody else, before any fans listen. And so, a lot of people, you could probably confirm this, that if you're on a regular cycle of reviewing records and you're in good standing with labels, you should get maybe 3 to 5 reviews a week, or I don't know, maybe every other week, depending on the cycle of releases. But my point is that let's say you're 5 reviews behind, all right, and you get an Atheist record and you listen to it and you go, what the fuck? I don't know what the fuck is that. That's craziness. And you shuffle through and you listen and you write your review, and it's not a quality review because you're not really ingesting it the way it needs to be ingested. And then that review comes out, and before anybody hears anything on the record, they see your fucking review. If you going, oh, I don't know what the fuck these guys think they are, they blah 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 blah, and it sucks as an artist to watch, and nobody else can go listen to it to disagree or anything. So for 2 weeks or more, all you're doing is just reading hate and people's opinions, and not always, but sometimes there's nice things that people say, but if you're doing anything different and weird, then it's in my experience has been, it's just like tough. The next time we make a record, I'd really like it to go to everybody on the same day, and then write your review. But I mean, the reason being, because just what I said, any kind of interesting music that you listen to, you can't just listen to it once. You have to, in order to properly review it, you gotta really spend some time with it. And because of the amount of music that's coming out these days, that's what's happening, is it's coming and going and coming and going and coming and going. And people are just like, oh, I'm into this band. Oh, I like this. This guy's more brutal than that guy. And, it was Will Ramos from Lorna Shore for a minute. Now it's Alex Terrible. You know what I mean? It's like everybody's moving so fast on who can be more brutal, who has the most pingy snare drum on their breakdown. It's I don't know, man. Everybody just take a breath. Well, and make good music, man. Stop fucking trying to be the new TikTok star. So anyway, but people move through it. I mean, people. I don't think either Alex or it's not Will. It's not their fault. It's just that people just are. I'm into this. I'm into that, and then they move along to the next thing so quickly that you know, I wish people kind of spend more time with the content that's out there, you know, and that's why people, I think, you know, on social media are just so have such little attention spans, because it's kind of how it's set up. You know, you go from one video clip to the next one to the next one to the next, and I'm guilty of it as well. So it's really, you know, it's changed. You know, being an older guy, I know what life used to be like before the internet, and so it really has changed society
Yeah.
in a very unique way. And you
Yeah.
know, making a record in the late '80s compared to making a record now, and the way the marketing is, and the way the you know, you're looking for streams and views on YouTube and all these things that is completely foreign to how it used to be when you had a record back then. So you know, having to adapt to that, and you know, can be difficult.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. And the cool thing is being, you know, on my channel is it's me. I don't answer to anybody. I don't have a status quo. If I listen to an album, I'm going to listen to the album for at least 2 weeks straight because I want to make sure I get every
Thank you.
morsel of that
You're a
album
rare
in
breed.
me. And sometimes, I mean, that's just how I am, though, because I want to give you, as the artist, the proper respect you deserve because you put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into it.
You
And
know,
for
it's like
those,
if you spend 8 hours on a meal and somebody just came up with a spoon and just took a quick bite and then fucking split out the door, and then called everybody and said, "Yeah, this guy's a shitty cook. It's terrible." You know what I mean? Like, come on, man. You fucking a lot of things going on. You can't just take one spoonful and split. Like you gotta fully eat the meal and hang out for a minute. You know, so it's and it's difficult because, you know, in art it's just so judgmental. Everybody feels like they have to tell you what they think. They can't just
yeah,
listen to it and move on. But everybody goes, well, I don't like that kind of music, or I don't like that, or I do like that, or whatever it is. It's so judgmental though all the time. So anytime you play a song for a friend, or you know, while you're working on a new album or whatever, hey, check this song out. I don't do that anymore, man, because it's just like I'd rather just get it all done, you know, because they'll be like, oh, you know, I can't hear the bass. Yeah, it's a sketch right now, so the bass isn't even in there yet. So it's just like I'm just kind of showing you and sharing you the idea. It's like so hard to play anybody anything. Everybody just has an opinion all the time. It's you know,
uh,
it's like if somebody
sucks.
always told you what they thought of your kids. You know, if every time you met somebody, they go, "Oh, I
Mm.
think your kid doesn't look good. I don't like his shirt and his shoes suck." All right, you have a nice day. See you later. Well, who fucking asked you? What do you like? You know what I mean? That's how insulted I
Yeah,
feel when people say things like that about my songs. You know, it's like, well, all right, so okay, but and people feel so brave on, you know, as you say, your keyboard warriors feel so brave to use tons of adjectives and breaking you down and insulting you, and you know what I mean? And it's like, it's I oftentimes feel like Jay and Silent Bob in the movie when he strikes back. Like, I'm gonna go find Curtis in fucking Des Moines, Iowa. Fucking explain to
flipping
Curtis.
flipping through the goddamn phone book. Okay, that's him. Yeah, we're going. It gets that way, man. It does. And a lot of the, you know, I've had a couple. I'm lucky the community I'm a part in, YouTube wise. A lot of the guys that I talk to, and that it's a similar mindset that we all have when it comes to music, and we don't. None of us just flip through shit, flip through shit, flip. A lot of us take our time to consume it because that's just how it is. And it's funny that you mentioned about being a chef and all that. I'm actually a retired chef. I know at 42, that's pretty young to retire from it. But I
Yeah.
would have those fucking assholes that would come into the restaurant and take a couple bites like, oh, well, this is just not rare enough. There's too much. Fuck you. You didn't go to culinary school. You didn't spend all this time perfecting your fucking recipe, or you didn't spend time going to fucking France and learn how to speak goddamn French and you don't like it.
And
So
then
yeah,
there's also the element of being honest with yourself, where you've got to have that filter and that sort of aspect to your dealing with judgment is how much of what this person is saying is accurate, you know, because
yeah,
maybe they're, you know what I mean? So, you know, and it depends on where you're getting the information. You know, who do you trust for the honest opinion? That's why with Till the Dirt, when I first wrote the first few songs, I sent it to a guy named Gunnar Sauerman, who writes for Metal Hammer, and he's the guy I've known for a long time. He's a just a jolly guy. I think he lives in Norway now, or maybe he lives still in Germany. But he worked at Season of Mist when Jupiter came out, and he was in charge of doing the press for Jupiter. And so when we first got on the phone together, he was like, "Hey man, I'm your publicist, and I'll be setting up interviews for you and for this album cycle." And he's like, "But full disclosure, I'm not an Atheist fan at all." I said, "That's totally cool, man. I appreciate the honesty, and I love that about him that he told me that." So fast forward to me sitting on my couch with this new music, going, "Who can I send this to that'll tell me?" Like, it felt really interesting and special. Like, Outside the Spiral was the first song I wrote, and then Bring on the Gods was the second one, and I was just like, what is this fucking music? It's not Atheist. It's not, I don't know what it is. So I sent it to him, and he was like, holy shit, this is amazing. He's like, I think labels are really, and he was so excited about that. It excited me. And I started writing more. And then once I got Scott Burns involved, it was the same way. He was excited for me. And so I sent it to a lot of my peers that I knew would be brutally honest with me. And in order to kind of know whether I should, put the time into it to try to make a record. So that was exciting and fun, to catch a wave of that.
Well, if I, when I do make music, if I want the most brutal opinion, I give it to my wife who doesn't listen to metal. Just like, tell me what you think of this, and she will just like fucking iron
You said she
fist
doesn't listen to metal?
the
Well, no.
heaviest band.
Well, you got to get a different opinion. Then you got to get somebody. I mean, I could make the greatest song ever and play it for some fucking Eminem fan. They're gonna be like, "That's garbage. What you're doing."
I think the reason why I do is because there's no biased opinion in it.
Hey, can you press pause for a minute so I can grab a smoke?
And this interview was sponsored by cigarettes. Those who love to smoke them and not puss out like me and get a vape.
You want the really gnarly vocals?
That actually leads me to a good question. How do you take care of your vocals so well? That like, do you do anything different?
Fucking no, I do everything I shouldn't do. I'm not. It's funny. I mean, I don't know. It is what it is. I mean, I smoke, I drink, I talk. I do everything you're not supposed to do. But I'm not singing like, fucking Jeff Tate. I mean, I don't have to pull that shit off every night, thankfully. So it's really just about air. As long as I have enough air to do what I need to do, it doesn't really affect my throat at all. If anything, it's maybe even a little bit better as I get older. I don't know, not better, but just easier. Just different techniques and stuff. But it's tough when you get a cold. Like as you get older, a cold is a little more of an issue than it is when you're 20. But I've never had to cancel a show because of my voice, so I feel lucky that that's been the case. And I mean, I'm 55, so I mean, it's a lot of shows, man. There's a lot of screaming and a lot of drinking and smoking and talking, and I smoke cigarettes and weed, and I mean, it's like I'm not the poster child for vocals. People ask me that all the time. They're like, "What do you do, man?" I'm like, "Oh, no. You don't want to know." But funny story is we were out with Cryptopsy, and in the beginning, everybody was drinking gin and Jack and tequila, and I will fight somebody and make sure that Jaeger is on my rider for the band. So we get like a bottle of Jaeger every night and Red Bull. That's my drink for 30 plus years. So and it has like herbs in it, and so I found one time where somebody couldn't get me Jaeger. We were in some country and they couldn't get it. Then that night I drank Jack Daniels. The next day I was like, fuck, my voice was like super dried out, and I was like, holy shit, man, I cannot drink that anymore. And so I told my manager, I was like, please, it's really important that I got to be able to just have a couple drinks before I go on. It's just like having a glass of wine. It's terrifying to walk out in front of people you've never met before and scream at them for an hour. It's like, I mean, no matter how long you do it, it's still a thing. That moment you walk out, you're like, ah. So it's always nice to have like a good solid stiff drink or two, before you go out. So that in particular seems to coat my throat. And so I was I went through the tour without any issues, and some of the other guys were having issues. So everybody started drinking Jaeger. not not all the time, but they were drinking. So we went through 2 bottles a night, like the opening bands, Almost Dead guys, and everybody just kind of got into the whole Jaeger thing. But I don't know if it helps or not. But for me, is I know exactly how much to drink. I know exactly how it makes me feel, and it allows me to it's been allowing me to do this for decades. So I'm a Jaeger guy for life. If I drink anything else, I don't, you know what I mean? I just don't know how much of it I can drink or how it's going to make me feel in the morning.
Yeah.
I know exactly how much Jaeger and Red Bull to drink. And the thing about Jaeger and Red Bull is you're still getting energy from Red Bull. So you
Yeah.
don't end up like lazy, buzzed. I'm kind of like, so I'm ready to meet everybody and hang out and because I really enjoy touring and I enjoy meeting people. And I know there's a lot of guys in this business that don't like that, but I do. I really enjoy people, and sometimes sometimes people can be a pain in the ass, but 99% of the time, I mean, they just want their 5 or 10 minutes with you, man. They've been listening to your band for 20, 30 years, and they just want 5 minutes to shoot the shit. And I want to, and I want to, I want to hear. I like to hear those stories of how people found Atheist. Like, how the fuck did you, because we're not a mainstream band, so there's always a cool story that goes with it. Like, it's always like my friend. I had this really cool friend, and I went to his house one time and I smoked pot for the first time and he fucking busted out a piece of time and I listened to it and I've never been the same since, and it's like, that's awesome. I mean, somebody on the other side of the world has that cool story, and so I like to, if you hide out on the bus all the time, you never get to hear those stories.
Yeah. Well, I can't forget the first time I heard Piece of Time because I was dissecting a fucking frog when he put it in front of me.
Nice.
And I was like, okay, got gloves on. Do you mind putting that in my backpack or something? I'm kind of cutting into Kermit here.
The first time I heard Killing Is My Business from Megadeth, every time I hear that record to this day, I still think about my job. I was a dishwasher at a seafood restaurant. So it smelled like fucking horrible seafood in this place. And then if you've ever washed dishes in a restaurant, it smells fucking horrible. And it's
Yep.
old food and old shrimp and old fish. And I'm fucking cranking out Killing Is My Business, which was like an amazing record. And I would just listen to it over and over again. And so now still to this day, that immediately comes into my head the first time I hear the opening notes of that record.
I mean, that's the great thing about, like you said, music is the soundtrack to our lives. There's certain songs that you listen to, you're like, oh fuck, that brings this memory back, that brings this memory back. And then sometimes there's songs I will not listen to anymore because there's a bad memory attached to it.
Think
I'm
about
just
how
like,
important certain scenes are in your favorite movies. Think about the most important, your favorite moments in the last 30 years of cinema. And think about the music that supports those particular scenes. If you take that music away and put in different music, it changes the way
yeah,
you receive that visual experience in that scene. That's fucking amazing. People don't talk about that enough, and how important that is. Like, you know, um, a visual experience with a certain kind of music just creates they combine together to make a memorable moment, and so you have these things in your life. Your life is a movie. And what, I always think about it like that. Like, if I have a long drive, it's super important that I pick the right fucking music for that long drive,
yeah.
because it becomes the soundtrack for the scene in my movie. You know what I mean? And I want it to be fucking cool. I want to be happy and chilling, and I want to make sure my environment is one that I would want to watch in a movie. So I always live my life like that, man. And I just so when people say, well, what's your favorite music, what's your favorite band, I'm like, it's impossible to answer that question.
Yeah.
It just depends on what mood I'm in or where I'm at, or what part of the world I'm in, or it's just so many things depend on it.
I agree with that, especially with movies. Like, I'm a horror movie buff. I fucking love horror movies.
Yeah.
Weirder, sometimes weirder the better. But the music, like, I love everything John Carpenter's ever done. And it's probably the fact that he puts everything he has into his movies, including the soundtracks and all that. And that's why I own like all
Do you
the
ever listen
fucking
to
soundtracks.
you ever listen to his music without watching the movies?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. He's talented as shit.
No, I'm just saying, like, put yourself, like, all right, if I were a movie and I want a John Carpenter fucking soundtrack, you know what I mean? Like, you're riding in a car and you put on the soundtrack. That'd be kind of fun to do, actually, to have a week where you experiment in your life, where you find your favorite guys that have scored movies, and use those soundtracks for your life that week, you know, see like all your favorite, that'd be kind of cool, you know, just like set your life up for making sure you only have that music going on while you're doing certain things.
Oh Jesus. That then I would be stuck in some kind of fucking weird fantasy horror neo noir type shit. Throw in some Lovecraftian elder gods on top of that, and then there we go. That's my life. Is there any like John Carpenter, Goblin that did a lot of the like Suspiria stuff like that? Um, I don't know. When it comes to horror movies, I'm really weird, but then also I like a lot of the '80s slasher horror movies too because they're cheesy as shit and they're fun to me.
Our
But
bass player Yoav, he's a big horror movie buff, um, and he's like 26, so he's always digging for horror movies. I've never really, you know, I love gangster flicks. I love like
okay,
Goodfellas and shit like that, and Sopranos and The Godfather. And I don't know, I like Italian culture and movies that like that. But I mean, I love, you know, old school Freddy Krueger shit, and I watched the like Final Destination and movies like that that are a little less typical, stuck out in the cabin in the woods, you know, because it's so predictable that I in my mind I'm like I know what's gonna happen. I fucking know what's gonna happen, and it's gonna startle me. So I don't need that in my life. You know what I mean? I'm already startled by life enough. I don't need a jump scare on the fucking on the horror movie. But my wife loves horror movies and her mom, so I'm subject to them from time to time.
well, see, that's the good thing about living in Alabama, all the wilderness. So I know what to look for in the scenarios if horror movie happens. You know,
Yeah.
somebody screams, fuck that, not going near them. Oh,
Just
they're
remember
broken.
when you're running, don't fucking fall down.
I don't have
Don't
to
fall
outrun the
down.
kill. I don't have to outrun the fucking killer. I just have to trip the person next to
And
me.
also
I'm
stop
good.
screaming so he can tell where you're at.
Yeah.
Be quiet.
That's what they should do. They need to make a movie like that where the guy turns to the girl and be like, please shut the fuck
Shut
up.
up.
Just shut the
Don't
fuck
shut up. I
up.
ain't gonna kill you. The reason I cut your throat is you wouldn't shut up.
Man, that's
Uh,
awesome.
anyway, cool, man. Well, I hope you make it up to Alabama sometime to play. You know,
Oh yeah, I'd appreciate it, man. That'd be amazing for me. Really would.
cool to meet you.
Likewise, man. Well, thank you so much, man, for taking time
Thanks
to
for
talk
having
to
me.
me.
I
No
appreciate it. I
problem.
hope everybody will go pick up that Till the Dirt record or at least stream it and check it out and you know, give it a minute. You know, make sure you're get your mind right when you're listening to it. You know, it's very, you know, it's a heavy record. So if you're into extreme metal, there's a lot of good shit on there for you to listen to. So, well, thank you for the support
No
and
problem,
talking about
man.
the record. I appreciate it.
No problem. You have
See
a good
you,
one, man.
see you soon. Cheers. Thanks.
Cheers.
Bye.